Hi everyone. So this video is kind of an introduction for this channel, my personal story behind it and what you can expect to see here in the near future. So let's get started. So at the age of 2 or 3, my dad gave me a book full of cars. And as a child, I studied it. I studied all the manufacturers and all the cars and everything I could find. At that time, my mom brought me to kindergarten on her bike. So while riding her bike and driving me to the kindergarten, she was like, hey, what car is that? Or what car is that? And I answered her. And she was arguing with me. She's like, no, I don't think that's this. I think it's that. But like a few months ago, she told me that she knew that I was always right, to be honest. In 1991, my parents bought a Mercedes-Benz 190e. And as a child, I loved this car so much because it was the car with the star, you know? And yeah, I really admired it. I really loved being passenger in it. And like 2 years later, there was some kind of issue with the car and they wanted to sell it. And me as a kid, I cried. I cried so long that they kept it. And they kept it until today. So the car is still sitting in our garage. It's incredible. The state of the car and what the plan is with the car is like another story, but it's still there. I guess it was in the same year when I got this. Yes, it's a Supra. So this was my favorite toy because I loved the shape of the car, you know. It was a sports car. I loved the rear wing. I loved the Supra lettering. And on the bottom it says Toyota Supra Turbo. And I was like, what the hell? I've never heard about that car. And I looked at it and I had to imagine how it looks like in real life because obviously it's a Matchbox, so it has no real front lights and no real tail lights and everything. And this was the time when there was like something you've never seen before. Maybe I got this. So every month some of these cards were sent to me. So month after month I waited when the Supra will arrive because I wanted to see this car so bad. So one beautiful day the Supra card arrived, okay? So it's this way, right? Okay, and then it's this, it's another Honda, and then there was this. So yeah, it was upside down, and I guess it was a sign because it's the only of these collector's cards being upside down. So I saw this picture of the Supra. It's a UK model, and I was instantly in love. It was like, holy shit. This car looks even better than I could ever imagine. Yeah, I was blown away because I didn't know that it has a hood scoop. I love the front lights and everything. And if you have a look at the back, you have another picture of the car. And for me as a kid, this car was like anything but ordinary. And there was also it says like 330 horsepower, and I was like, holy shit, that's a lot. And there's the price, 109,200 Deutschmarks. And I was like, okay, that's kind of very expensive. So this was like Porsche 911 money at the time. And yeah, I always wanted to own one of these cars. But yeah, that was the beginning basically when I saw the Supra for the first time and I was in love with it. Okay, so now you know how I got into cars, but where does ANKRacing come from? And it's super simple. So at the same time, me as a kid, I dreamed of owning a racing team. And I put my like banners and logos and even sponsors on my toy cars. And yeah, at that time I thought of how can I name my racing team? And at first I thought of ANKRacing because it's the first letter of my first and last name. But somehow I felt it's too simple. So I added the N of Andy, A-N and K, okay? And so yeah, basically that's the whole story how ANKRacing was formed. And it was around the time, was also around 1994 or something. And that's why my sticker says established in 1994. Yeah, and when I was 14, I had access to the internet. And forums were a big deal. So remember, this was a time without social media. There was like no social media platform, there was no YouTube or anything. So forums were the only source of information. So I went to some forums and used ANKRacing as a username. And honestly, I still do this on each and every platform I'm on. So yeah. So having access to the internet meant that I used Kazaa and all these platforms, you might remember them, to search for videos of Japanese cars. So you all remember the almighty video of the Whaleside Supra beating the F40. Yeah, that's the video, and I searched for it in this crappy quality because that was the quality we had to deal with back in the day. So I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like a Toyota beating the almighty F40. The F40 I loved so much too. These cars seem to be so fast when modified, and yeah, it was incredible for me as a kid seeing that. So in these years, the D1GP was in full swing too, and by accident I downloaded videos of these competitions, and I didn't really know what I was seeing because I had no information. And so yeah, I was learning all the information step by step by watching these videos, watching the drivers, looking over these cars, and yeah, there was still no YouTube or anything, and it was super hard to find information, and the only chance I had was downloading more videos and watching all this stuff. When being in school, I ran to the gas station during lunch break, and the gas station wasn't next to the school at all. It was like a good 10 to 15 minute walk. So I ran to the gas station to get magazines with Japanese cars in it to read it below the table during the lessons. And the teachers told me that I will never own such a car, and I think that's something you might have heard too at some point. As the time went on, I learned so much about Skylines, Silvias, Supras, RX-7s, NSXs, and so on. But my interest was always pointed towards the Supra especially, because I still had the goal and the dream to own one of these cars, not knowing if it will ever happen. So I love to see what the Japanese Supra guys were doing, like Smokey Nagata of Top Secret or Manabu Orido. Yes. Orido-san stood out to me even at that time because he had a fun personality in all these videos I saw and his crazy driving in D1GP. Of course, I admired his Supra and the D1GP Supra so much too. So the US Supra scene was a big thing too. They had these incredibly clean Supras without body kits, just nice wheels, a front lip and huge single turbos, you know? So you might remember the Redline video or the big Supra video. If not, the links are in the description below. I always wanted to say that, but yeah, you need to check it out. So this is like, yeah, what was the big thing back in the day, and I loved these videos and all the music playing and all this stuff. It was incredible to see this as well. So later I created an account for the German Supra forums, nkiv.de. Just the OGs know. And yeah, I trolled over these cool guys with their expensive Supras and arguing about big turbos and who has the fastest Supra, the guys from Berlin or the guys from the south, and so on. But remember, these cars were expensive and I had no money, and this was a time almost without any import Supra. You can't imagine, right? But it was a time before the import boom hit Germany. So when the big import boom hit Germany, the community was kind of split into the left-hand drive and the right-hand drive guys, okay? It kind of was a horrible time because the almighty car I admired so much was super cheap, and yeah, the condition of these cars reflected the price somehow. So the cars were in crappy condition, and it was nothing I wanted to see as an enthusiast for these cars, you know? So in 2010, I bought my first Supra, and honestly, that's a whole story for itself. I was at a point where I saw Supras in real life, okay? I had a passenger ride in one. Thanks, Philip. And the prices were incredibly low, but still too high for me because I was a trainee at my first company at that time and didn't have any money. But I pulled the trigger and bought my first Supra on eBay UK. So at that time I had a look at eBay and at all these platforms, piston heads and all that stuff, like every single day, multiple times. And then there was that one car on eBay where I was like, hey, it's incredibly clean. It seems to be incredibly clean. And the best color, 1A1, brown, and it was stock. Okay. So I bid on it on eBay and won the auction. So this car was a turbo automatic and best and rarest color, 1A1. And it was a one owner car in Japan and was freshly imported to the UK, just being there for a few weeks. And yeah, it had 90k kilometers on the clock, and I won the auction and I bought this car for 5,500 euros. Yep, I'm crying, you're crying. Insane times, right? So yeah, I mean, I was at the end of my traineeship, I was at home, I was like, holy shit, what I have done. I bought a Supra. What the hell? I couldn't believe what I have done. It felt unreal that I'm a Supra owner now. I was speechless. But I flew over to the UK and collected the car, and the car was pristine. God bless. So at the end of 2012, so after 2 years, I sold it. Before I drove it, I modified it a little bit with HKS exhaust, Recaro seat, suspension, and yeah, that was basically it. And yeah, at the end of 2012, I wanted to buy a left-hand drive car, a German spec Supra, so like the pinnacle, the ones I always saw in videos of these cool guys in the forums and all the stuff. And I tried to sell my right-hand drive Supra as expensive as possible, and it worked out because the car is very clean and I could afford to buy a left-hand drive Supra. And that's the car I still own until today. Now I want to sell it to buy another Supra, but all the reasons and all the stuff are something for another video. So here we are in 2025 and I'm living the dream of my younger me, owning 4 Toyotas and being a part of the organization team of Supras at Ring, so the biggest Supra meet in mainland Europe. Knowing the US Supra scene after being 2 times at Supras in Vegas, which is insane. Knowing the Japanese Supra owners after being in Japan in 2023, and honestly, it feels like a dream and it sounds a bit played out, but I'm still the same kid, you know? I still have the same or even more passion for these cars, for all the manufacturers, all the industry, all the little details and the whole subculture and the niche I am in. My passion is even bigger than it was like 20 or 30 years ago. So I still love every detail and everything about it, and I couldn't imagine a life without all this kind of stuff. So what can you expect to see on this channel? I mean, I don't want to have like basic stuff here, you know? So like going to meets and everything, because I'm nobody who really goes to any meets, but I want to upload stuff here which I enjoy watching on YouTube too. So these are POV drives in my cars or Supra information, because there's so much misinformation on the internet, it hurts. And yeah, there will be some garage stuff sometimes too, but I mean, I'm not a mechanic, so it's more or less, those will be fun videos, I guess. And sometimes I cut a video way too complex of my holidays somewhere, and then I will finish and upload it 2 years later. Yeah, but the focus is driving and information, okay? Because like the biggest influence on videos are Alexi from Noriaro, because he's just like, okay, here's a video from 20 minutes of me driving at Nico Circuit, enjoy. I love this kind of stuff. And Neil from Juicebox, because he's such a super nice guy and he's so into this detail and this subculture and all this kind of information, and he has such a big knowledge that I was like, hey, I know a thing or two about Supras. Why not doing like something similar? So it's, yeah, that was the inspiration for that. So yeah, thanks to these guys for uploading videos for years and firing my passion even more up. And if you made it until here, thanks a lot for taking your time and watching this video, and see you next time. Das geht ja schon gut los. So at the age of the car didn't videos of Japan. Okay. Oh, Alter. Organization. Scheiße, das war nichts. Punkt.